Hello everybody and welcome back to Planet Coaster 2 and welcome back to Le Jardin Magique. This is of course our theme park set in an imaginary country in Northern Europe, owned by an imaginary animation studio and filled with imaginary rides and attractions based on the IPs of said animation studio. In today's update we are going to be having a look at the Rapids ride. This is something I've been working on for a little while, probably over a year at this point actually. I'm very slowly chipping away at it, and then just over the past couple of weeks I was particularly inspired to come and finish this thing off. So without further ado, let's hop back into the past and start here. This is the furthest back version of the Rapids that I can find. At this point I had already moved the Rapids into place over here next to the coaster, but I actually started working on it much earlier. In fact, you can see the remnants here of the blueprint that I used to rip a bunch of stuff out of. I will just show you now. So I believe this is the blueprint that I used. In fact, you can tell it is because it says update available. I'm always confused about how this works because I obviously downloaded this ages ago at this point, but it says that it was created and updated on the 13th of February, which can't be right. This blueprint is great, by the way. As you can see, it's got all of this really cool infrastructural stuff. I think this has changed considerably since I downloaded it, but the basic gist is that I basically grabbed this blueprint, the remnants of which are still here. In fact, you can see the unupdated version of the blueprint here. Most of what I ended up using from this in the end was these little kind of rotating bits and then this kind of pump system here. But yeah, this is a great blueprint if you want to just grab it and tear things out of it, as I did. But yeah, anyway, I knew right from the start that I wanted this to have a kind of vaguely piratey sort of theme to it. When I initially had it placed down over here, I built a couple of like very rough layouts, but as soon as I brought it over here to actually put it in place, it became obvious that it was going to need to be sort of fairly custom to fit in with what was going on here, especially once I realised that I was going to have this cool kind of interaction here with the coaster. At this point, you know, I've still got the original tower and the sort of beginnings of the station that I was kind of workshopping here, and then I'd started working on the kind of lift hill and the steps and all that. And then yeah, as I was saying before, obviously we've got the pump area and the little wheelie things. But yeah, that was basically the beginning. And then if we jump forward a little bit here to a more up-to-date file, you can see that I've started the very beginning of the queue and getting a kind of rockwork palette, and the station has gone in, riffing a little bit on the classic kind of Spanish colonial architecture that you see around, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean, that sort of thing. It's your classic pirate vibes, basically. This little building here actually ended up repurposed over here at a later point. Initially that was potentially going to be part of this, but I eventually decided that this tower actually looked better at the front of the building here structurally, and then we've got this little new bit coming out the side here. And then by this point I was starting to think about the exit to the ride. This isn't how it ends up, but at this point I was thinking maybe there would be a toilet. You would sort of exit through this building here. I just wanted to avoid having it so that you could walk straight from the main path here kind of directly onto the ride platform. So this was sort of a vague attempt to direct traffic this way through this building, this toilet building. And at this point I was kind of imagining that, I think I talked about this in the video for the siege, but at this point I was basically imagining that this rockwork here was going to be the base of the kind of quote-unquote mountain structure that the rapids would be going through, and that this whole area would be kind of indoors essentially. And I was also imagining that quite a lot of the rapids ride would be indoors as well. You know, you would come up here and you would essentially straight away be indoors, and then only the kind of final bit of the ride here was going to be outdoors. But after taking a little break, jumping forward a little bit here, I'd basically decided around the time that I was planning out the indoor section of the ride that the kind of vague sort of story here was going to be that it was kind of bandits. Bandits were storing all of their stolen goods in this cave system, and that you would be exploring it on a raft. And so it occurred to me at some point that actually it would be kind of cool if, instead of this whole thing being inside, maybe it's kind of a mountain pass, you know, a river going through a mountain area, and then we get to have this cool kind of iconic, you know, mountain at the back here to act as kind of a cool sightline weenie. And then it might be kind of cool if, instead of just having this big wall of rock around here, we sort of break it up and we imply the existence of kind of an old abandoned town that the bandits have taken over and are kind of using as their camp. And yeah, you know, the idea then just becomes you're sort of coming through the abandoned town into the station here, and then you're travelling up through the sort of the treacherous mountain pass to get to the cave over here, which is the kind of much smaller indoor section. You'll come through this little cave. We'll have all the bandits' treasure in it, and then you'll escape here through this kind of classic waterfall area. We'll have the walls with the water pouring out. It's the rapids classic. Any rapids worth its salt will have this section where you've got the walls with waterfalls on them. This original idea to have this kind of mirroring of the coaster and the rapids turn here, that's still intact. So yeah, so that brings us to today, basically, where the ride is pretty much complete. I think I might keep coming back and tweaking this over time, but I'm certainly happy enough to show it off at this point. So starting at the bottom of the hill here, we've got this toilette building here. This is based on a reference that I saw on Instagram. I honestly cannot remember who or what the picture was, but it was this building which I have a feeling might actually be a church, in which case this is obviously quite disrespectful. But I really liked the look of the building, so I wanted to kind of mirror that vibe. Next to the exit here, we've got a little locker building. This is something that I keep forgetting to put into my parks in general, to be honest. And I've got to give a huge shout out to JP. I was going to call him JP Almighty because that's what he used to be called, but I think on YouTube now anyway, he just goes by JP. He posted a video a few weeks ago now showing off his rapids ride, and that video was the main thing that kind of got me to come back and really finish these rapids off, because it was just super inspiring. And he had very cleverly kind of set his rapids up so that the entrance and the exit were kind of next to this locker and dryer system. I don't have any dryers, but yeah, we've got lockers here next to the exit, so you could reasonably use the lockers, make your way up the hill here towards the entrance. I'll probably need to put some signs in. Yeah, I'm going to need to put signs in everywhere, pointing you where things are. But that's usually the sort of thing that I tend to do later in the process for whatever reason. I guess partly because it's the sort of thing I forget to do in general. One thing you'll notice here is actually that this locker building is what used to be toilets. At some point I basically decided that the original plan was for the kind of reservoir for the ride to be on the left side of the track here, but then it became increasingly obvious that was never going to work, so the reservoir needed to go off on this side and we needed to have this little kind of channel to get there, and that meant that this building here was just completely in the way basically, so I shoved it off to the side here. And then it was around that point that I was thinking maybe this should actually be a lockers building, and then this building here can be the toilets. So that's what I've done. And then this little corner here, I was talking before about kind of trying to dissuade people from walking up the exit here. So I just added in a second little kind of planter here to sort of divide the path up a little bit more, and to just sort of generally create the impression from the main path over here that this is not a corner that you need to go to, Hopefully that's working or clear what I mean from that, because I think I've done a terrible job explaining that, but yeah. And then yeah, as I say, you might make your way up the hill here. Lovely views of the coaster and rapids and everything. And this is the entrance. Yeah, the name of the ride is La Grotte des Bandits, which I think means the bandits' cave rapids. Rapide Fluvio, the bandits' cave rapids. And over here we've got the parrot, which is just telling you the height requirement. I thought that was a fun little touch to have the parrot's wing kind of out at the height you need to be. And then yeah, we'll do a quick walk of the queue. Obviously we come across this nice little bridge here. This all wraps back around. You get these awesome moments of interaction here with the coaster and the rapids next to each other. And then you can see all the work that I did to kind of bring this into being a sort of abandoned town basically. So we've got these kind of like hanging rags, and we've got broken walls and dilapidated structures and canopies and things being stored in barrels and chests and all the kind of stuff that you would expect in a bandit camp basically. We've got the sign here that says do not enter. And then as we come in, this building here is very much using the same kind of design language as the La Siège up the hill. And that's really the only kind of indoor part of the queue really. And then yeah, we follow just around this way. The rest of it really is just kind of working your way through these dilapidated stone buildings, the kind of canopy structures and stuff. And then yeah, we make our way through here and we eventually get to the station. Obviously, I chose not to go with the rotating station. I know like lots of people have kind of convincingly created rotating station platforms at this point, but I just feel like there's no point in hiding from the way that the game insists on doing things with this air gate system. Try to like lean into it, cover it up as best as possible, and I think it works fine, to be honest. So then yeah, coming out of the station here, as you leave the station, we've got the kind of maintenance area off to the right. I always think it's fun, like, even in this kind of highly themed ride, to have these sorts of a little bit of maintenance infrastructure on show, just to kind of ground it in reality with this stark concrete infrastructural area. And then we do have a little bit of a fence here, just so that as you're coming up the lift hill, you're sort of on this side, there's still a hint of theming. Obviously on this side it's it's glorious rock work, and then on this side it's a sort of dainty wooden fence. Doing a terrible job of covering up this kind of working area over here. I also thought it was fun to have this kind of rudimentary facade just on this side of this little maintenance area here, just so that as you're looking at it from this side, it doesn't look completely like a shack, which it is obviously. But another thing to point out actually is that I've been enjoying using these in-game facility pieces. I'm using this little kind of hatch here, and then around the other side I'm using a couple of the filtration pieces. Although, to be honest, I think these would probably be indoors, so I don't know, I may copy this kind of cover structure over here as well, just so that it's not all completely exposed, but I think it's fun to be able to kind of see that stuff. And then obviously we've got the reservoir system here, which might be bigger than it needs to be, I don't really know. I'm kind of guessing with a lot of this Rapids infrastructure, to be honest. But I know that they have a reservoir, because obviously when you e-stop the ride, or at the end of the day, when you turn it all off, all of this water at the top has to flow down and go somewhere, so you'd have this kind of reservoir here where the water is constantly being cycled through and filtered. And then over here is where the snail ride is going to be. I basically built this little kind of berm covered in trees to try and sort of hide this kind of unsightly infrastructural stuff, and it actually does a pretty good job of it, I think. Maybe I'll get some low level kind of bushes and stuff in here as well, and then perhaps we could probably get rid of a couple of these trees so that you can still see top of the mountain poking out or something. And then as for the actual ride, I will put a POV in at the end, but I know that a lot of people don't particularly enjoy a Rapids POV because there's a lot of spinning. So I will give you a quick little tour around the ride, and then I'll stick a POV in at the end. Yeah, it's pretty simple really. This whole upper area is kind of a mountain pass, like I said. We've got a couple of little scenes that are mostly just sort of bandity bric-a-brac, sacks and crates and barrels and things like that. And then as we come around this way, we've got a little waterfall scene here. This is just done using a hidden Rapids ride here that's just kind of sticking out where it needs to be, and then a bunch of water effects pieces. I did initially do this using the taggy method, but it kind of creates this slightly ugly effect with certain rocks. I mean, this is also creating a slightly weird effect where those seams just look a little bit unnatural, but I thought this looked better than the taggy method. We've got another little kind of bandit camp vignette scene here on the right side, and at this point you're sort of overlooking the abandoned town area on the left here, and I think there's some quite cool sort of sight lines as you come around here with the coaster and everything. And then yeah, we've got this turn back, don't enter signs as we enter into the cave system. And this is the first time actually I've used these rocks from the aquatic set, which are glowing. Yeah, I think they work perfectly for a sort of dark ride like this, where it has the effect of UV paint and UV light. So I'm leaning into that a bit with the purpley blue lighting here. Thanks to SP for these piles of golden bits that look like money. He made those for the gift shop. We've got a couple of emergency exits in here as well. One that goes off this way, and then one on the right side there as well. And then as we come around, we've got this final little scene here. We've got a treasure chest on the left, and then the kind of secret cache on the right side here. Before we exit out into the waterfall section, we've got a couple of very lightly animated sort of a barrel and a little box bobbing around, and then we've got this barrel spinning up above the up above here, and then we enter into the last little stretch. And from this point forward, it's not all the way around on both sides, but I started using this kind of concrete trough because, I don't know, a lot of Rapids rides, especially in the UK and Europe, use this kind of really simple looking concrete trough. So, and annoyingly, I'd seen it in a reference and I thought I should try doing that because it might look really good, even if it's going to be really annoying. And I did a small section and I was like, oh, it looks so much better, that's so annoying. But I basically found a way to avoid doing it all the way around, which is by kind of intermittently having rock work on some sections. So yeah, again on this side it's sort of rock work on the left and the concrete on the right, and then this little area here it's concrete on both sides, and yeah, you know, you get the picture. Here we've got this little kind of, I think I talked about this during the siege episode, but yeah, this is where the water system is pumping out for this stream here that runs through the queue over there, and then it's also feeding back into the rapids ride. So this would be being fed by this system over here as well. There'd be, you know, a system of pipes. Perhaps I should put another hatch here so that this can be maintained, as it were. But yeah, then we just come around the corner here. We've got a little barrel that squirts you intermittently, and that is the end of the rapids ride. I should also say, just while I'm here, shout outs to the multiple people that said I should turn this into a windmill. I heard you loud and clear. I did it, and it does indeed look really nice having this extra little bit of, you know, kinetic movement. So yeah, that's the rapids ride. It's pretty simple stuff. As with the rest of this area, it's not tied to a particular IP, although I guess, you know, obviously Ravener is a bandit, or from the kind of bandit lineage, I guess. So it's kind of playing off of that a little bit. This whole kind of area over here is, you know, pirates and castles, and not tied to a particular IP. Although I did have a fun comment about the idea of this area over here potentially being part of a kind of YA, like a slightly more mature series about knights. So I think that's kind of a fun idea, and I may attempt to turn that into something more, into a more solid idea at some point. But yeah, as for the rapids, that's about it. I've been having a lot of fun working on this. To be honest, part of the reason I started working on it initially was because I was thinking, oh, there's gonna be an update in the next couple of weeks probably, so I'll just, you know, I'll just chip away a little bit more at the rapids while we wait to find out about what that's gonna be. And then, as you well know, there was no update. The update's not coming out until sometime this month. We're not sure when at this point while I'm recording this, so they just said April, so obviously that could be, there's still almost 4 weeks left in April, so we shall see. So yeah, I sort of started chipping away at it, and then as soon as it became obvious that we weren't getting an update, it was like, oh well, I might as well forge on with this. And yeah, this is where we've ended up with. I'm dead chuffed with how this has come out, actually. Really fun kind of mix of theming and ugly concrete. I think it's turned out pretty fun in the end. Obviously this infrastructural stuff will need to be finished up, and this whole area will have a proper backstage that will link up around this side with the back of the coaster and everything. Link back up to the start of the park here. That's going to be it. I will stick in a POV of the rapids here at the end for you. Otherwise, thank you so much as always for watching. I very much appreciate it. All the love and support on the channel, greatly appreciated. And I will catch you next time. Bye!